Watertown. Today we're examining the poetry of Watertown's Mark Uttech. Mark has been writing poetry since his high school days in Watertown in the 1960s. When still a boy, Mark began to lose his hearing as a result of a hereditary condition. By the time he became an adult, he was totally deaf.
Hi. Okay, hi. This is not Wayne's Art Shorts, because this is a show on poetry. We're looking at the recent works of well-known Watertown poet Mark Uttech. Today with us we have an expert on poetry, Professor Robert Oestreicher. Hello, Bob.
Afternoon, Wayne.
And what got you interested in the work of Mark Uttech?
Oh, well, I've been a long-time fan of Mark Uttech. I've been reading his works for several decades now.
Anyways, I'd like to introduce with us, right alongside on the other side of me, Mr. Mark Uttech.
Well, it's a
How are you today, Mark?
It's a pleasure to meet you, Bob, Wayne. I'm overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed to have such following in such a long time. Too. It kind of dates me. I'm well.
Have you known the professor at all, or met him before this?
Oh well.
Did you ever run into Professor Bob here at any of your book sales or anything?
I can't say if I have. Have you been to any of you?
Well, I recall meeting you several years back at one of your publishers' parties.
Oh, I don't say, but perhaps you have. Yes. Great.
And
well, Wayne, I've brought along with me, Wayne, to your show a few of my books for you to see, and I had a number of other books that back when a few years ago.
We have the first one is Outer Address Inward House, which was published when? Do you recall? This is
that's one of my more recent or later ones.
1976.
Yes,
that's quite recent.
Yes, that's.
And we have another one here that this was the year before, The Fog.
Yes, that's a good one there. You should read that one.
And this was my favorite. Can't remember when this one was published, though. Let me take a look. It was never published, the way it
Which
looks.
one is that?
This is my personal favorite.
Oh,
Bringing Flowers to the Tavern.
Yes, those are bits and pieces. Yes.
Your work is a thing of beauty. I mean, like a rose among thorns, you know. Intellectual beauty and purity of thought where you wouldn't expect to find it.
Like a silk purse out of a sow's ear?
Like these are some of my favorites. Jamming a cue ball in a beer glass, I pass beyond life and death.
A quick butsu, as the moth disappears under the lawn mower. So that was a very moving one.
Swirling dust, a fat woman on a tractor.
One of my favorites.
Now, Mark, your work has been criticized as being too intellectual for neglecting the sound of language and dwelling too much on conceptual fantasies. Would you care to respond to the critics?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like this one, for example. Also, a victim of divorce, garden overgrown with weeds. Obviously, that's meant to develop a mental picture. So I was just wondering what you intended for your audience to see in this.
Well, Mark, here's some interviews we took with some of your fans right here in Watertown at Baba Louie's Tavern. And I believe this was done during the morning. We stopped in one morning and we saw some of your fans in a very spiritual mode. That they were just totally enthralled by your work. And there was just quite an interview with the pinball repairman and a girl that was in there who you used to drink with her mother. So I don't know if you remember it, but why don't we take a look at it and maybe you can tell us something about it a little bit.
Great. Let's see that.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Okay, you got them?
I've got one or two anyway.
All right.
I was there the day that they painted over the graffiti in the men's room at Gutsy's. It was a major loss to mankind as far as I'm concerned. But,
well, I don't know. He used to do quite well with the vocals on Dada-loco. He wasn't much of a lead guitar player, but quite the vocalist.
I do remember that he used to write poetry on the wall down at Gutsy's. Oh, thank you. I remember one line, it was something about, must we live out our sordid lives beneath mirrors? It was written right underneath a mirror in the men's john at Gutsy's.
I had one of his, I think it was one of his first poetry books, Walking on a Tightrope, or, yeah, it was some pretty in-depth stuff.
You know, I used to know you, but you've changed.
I've matured and grown, you might say.
No, I mean, you look different.
No, I mean, sometimes an inner spiritual change, you know, the outer man reflects the...
What about your hearing problem?
Well, it cleared up. Look here's some poems. Let's read some poems here. Yes. Truly a Buddha, the retired gentleman that brings flowers to the tavern.
It's really marvelous stuff, don't you agree, Professor?
Yes, right.
Now, this has been, are you familiar with some of these works? And what about the unpublished works, the missing works, as it may be?
Oh, yeah, well, tragically, some of those are lost forever. No surviving copies left. Now, I'm especially interested in your short Japanese-style poems, haiku, I think they call them.
Boy, I'd like to call this program 25 Haiku.
Actually, Bob, these are not haiku. They're called sinryu. Haiku is a classic form of poetry, a line of 5 syllables, then 7 syllables, then 5 again. Sinryu, on the other hand, has no structure and is about everyday things. Haiku is to Sinryu as classic music is to jazz or rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay.
I was just wondering, seeing how you're an expert on this poetry, what do you think of some of... Seems like you're an expert on this poetry. I was wondering if you could tell us about some of your experiences with the readings of Mark. He did a little thing in somewhere else, I believe.
Mr. Uttech, I understand you were involved in kind of a poetry reading with 25 other artists at a place called the Cafe Carp. I think we have a tape of that, don't we, Wayne?
Yeah, we've got a tape of that, and that was filmed at the Cafe Carp in Port Atkinson, Wisconsin. You take a look at that.
This is to introduce the poet Mark Uttech. What we have here is a miracle. A beer drinker, lover, and deaf guy. Listen closely to this former Dada-loco iconoclast, Mark Uttech.
I go out to the dogs and walk on the devil kind. It's an inward house that I died on ribbon. Why pollute the river? It's an inward house that comes to me and kisses me as I light another cigarette. Why kiss the cancer? And oh my God, if we only knew what it takes to enter your heaven, all it is done is the angels everywhere do cause. It's an outer address and an inward house.
Mr. Uttech, that doesn't look anything like you.
Well, you Wayne, you have to realize that it was at night and it was lighting was bad, and I just think that maybe an inferior tape or something. Maybe it's cheap tape.
Yeah, but that doesn't even sound like Mark Uttech, man.
Well, I had bronchitis. I was sick, I think, during that time. I don't know. I've been taking some medicine.
Wait a minute. I've just been handed this tape, and it says right on here, Mark Uttech at home, Christmas 1991. Can we take a look at that, please?
He's a good dad.
He's sometimes pretty weird.
He does really strange things often.
Right. Well, you're obviously not Mark Uttech. Why don't you tell the people what this is all about?
Yeah, what is this? Why are you impersonating Mark Uttech?
Well, but look, I'm not Mark Uttech, okay? I gotta tell the truth. It's not me, obviously. I can't. But I only did it for a reason. Mark is a friend of mine. I know Mark. He had to be in Chicago for a keto tournament. He asked me would I come in and fill in and read his poems for him. Mark is a good friend of mine. He's a very shy person, though. He knew that I could read this for him. He asked me to. He confided. I thought I'd do him a favor. I mean, there was no harm done.
But Mark Uttech is not a shy person. Why would this? Why would you want to impersonate him like this?
Seeing these flies playing on my foot, how can I feel lonely?
Hi, we're back. This time with the real Mark Uttech.